right. Very good. Welcome to Woo Wednesdays. I'm your host, MoJo Medium, and we are here once again. See, I got that taken care of to talk about all things woo. Woo Wednesdays is the forum for discussion, hot seat or love seat coaching, I prefer to call it. And we talk about all the woo things. I am, like I said, MoJo Medium, aka Susan Morrow Johnson. I am your uh, destiny coach. I work with women. Most of them are over 40. Most of them are figuring out who am I now that I'm not raising a family, rounding out a career, being married, et cetera, et cetera. Now that I've got some time for myself, who am I and what am I going to do and why am I here? And by the way, I wanted to be a rock star. Is it too late? No, it's not. It's not too late to be a rock star. Some of you already are. All right, but that's just me. That's what I do: seminars, workshops, and one-on-one coaching. Enough about me. So here's what we're going to do today. I pulled up the Zoom meeting, and I thought, well, what's today's topic? And sometimes I plan ahead. More often I do not, because I usually get the divine inspiration along the way, and I know what I'm supposed to do. Now, I have to tell you that what's been kind of on my mind is I've been really tempted to talk about politics. And I usually try not to. I will kind of allude to them sometimes. But we're down to the wire here in the US. Reese, I know you're in Canada. Where are you, Angela?
Canada.
You're in Canada also. Okay. Do y'all know each other? Because Canada's so small.
Yes, I mean, we're on opposite sides of the country, but yes.
I thought y'all might know each other. So anyway, that's great. Thank you, Reese, for bringing Angela along too. I appreciate it. Anyway, today I decided that I'm not going to flip my lid on the whole politics thing. I'll go do that on Facebook. But I'm going to use my favorite deck of oracle cards, Magical Mermaids and Dolphins, by the inimitable Doreen Virtue. She does my favorite cards, but I don't know what's gone on with her for a while. She kind of went out of like the woo world and back into the Christian world. And then I think maybe she came back to the woo world. Is that right? I don't know. Reese, you look like you were like, yeah.
No, that
Exactly.
was me sneezing.
Uh-oh, froze. I decided to choose the topic today based on these cards, or a card that I will draw from these. And so putting my attention to that, the perfect thing to talk about. Oh, it says my connection's unstable. Oh no, it wasn't your connection, Reese. Okay. I'm not sure if this is a good card to use for this or not. Explore your options. It's time to look at other possibilities and a good time to make changes. As soon as I got to that last part, I was like, now I get it. Okay, so what we're doing about this, let me just make sure. Yeah. So what we're doing about this is what we're going to talk about is about making changes and about change in general and making divinely inspired or guided a bit more on recently with my clients is developing their intuition. I used to teach that. I had a little program I called Intuition Camp, kind of like a retreat. And I also offered certified intuitive practitioner, and that even had some business coaching in it. But I hadn't done that for a while until very recently. Had a couple of people request it specifically. So I was like, well, I think this might be something that I need to bring back and help people with their tuning into their intuition. But how does that relate to making changes? Well, one of the things choosing your destiny is to talk about uh, making changes that will bring you into alignment with your soul's goals. Hold on a second. I got distracted by this gorgeous stone. Who can tell me what this is made of? Because I can't remember. It may be Amazon. Anybody into crystals and such? I don't know. All right. Anyway, it's very pretty. Put that down. So talking about making changes that are in alignment with your soul's goals, aligned with the divine, so that, how do you do that? How do you make changes? You may be feeling what I call the tug of fate, which is, okay, this doesn't feel right, but I'm not sure what does. And when you get to that point, that's of course when you call me. But when you are at that point, I can give you some tips to at least kind of maybe get you over the hump a little bit. Um, the the power of your intuition shouldn't be underestimated. Most of us do, because our intuition is pretty much not just ignored from birth, but kind of squashed out of us. You know, when we go to school, if we can, if we know the answer, but we can't show your work, then you're either cheating or you're a good guesser. You've got to show your work. And so we're taught very much to think critically, to think logically, but nobody goes over your intuition with you. There's no training for that. There's no expectation around it, none of it. And so it's only natural that we spend feeling like we're not very intuitive. I mean, I was almost 40 before I knew I was psychic. And I was on that when I found out that pictures in my head and other things were actually the spirits of people who had passed trying to communicate through me. So that's because we don't have anything to help us with this. So I really want to help encourage you that. But back to the tug of fate. If you're feeling the tug, or if you're feeling that a restlessness, then that is an indicator that you are hearing that and you need to tune into that, pay more attention. Another thing that can happen that will get kicked out, getting kicked out. So when you get laid off, fired, made redundant, I'm not sure how you say it in Canada. That's how they say it in Australia, made redundant. Um, so if you lose your job one way or another, if you get kicked out of a relationship that you weren't ready to leave, if you have a car wreck, I mean, if something changes and you have not chosen that change, that is your soul aligning with the vibes of the universe and saying, okay, this is not, we haven't been in the right place for a while. It's time to make a change. And so on that soul level, it's like, okay, come on, come on. And so reaching your conscious mind to say, let's do something different. And so when you get kicked out, ding, that is always going to be your destiny calling. It's always going to be your soul saying, hey, this is not what we came here for. You're wasting this time, or nothing's ever wasted, but you are not using your talents to serve others, and this is not ideal for you. And so I recently read a book called Journey of Souls by Michael Newton, PhD. I recommend very highly. And the reason is that the book Journey of Souls is about life between lives. So our time in heaven, on the other side, or in the spirit realm, and what we do in between, which I just loved, mostly because it validated everything that I have experienced as a medium, everything that people from the other side have told me and shown me, and so forth. It was very, very, very much the same. There were a few things that were different, but very similar to what I have experienced and what I believe. And so I recommend the book very highly. And in that book, all the people that, and Dr. Newton is a psychologist, and so he used hypnosis, deep regressive hypnosis, to have people go into their spirit life. And all of them said that one of their soul's goals in each life was almost always, I found that to be fascinating, because I would think the universe out there, I could probably from, I'm sorry, you feel love and experience love and to, that kind of, but to overcome fear, I thought, wow, that is, it makes sense, because there are only love, and those are really kind of all of our emotions. And, to fear and to then make some sense to me. So um, we do get afraid of change. We get complacent. Um, when we're children, when we're little, very little babies and a little bit older, and sometimes into our teen years, we have a desire to do something or to do several things. We want to do something. We enjoy doing X, Y, Z. And at some point, somebody says, "Oh, that doesn't make any sense," or "You're not any good at that," or "You can't make any money doing that, so don't do it," or "Well, that's going to be pretty hard for you." So, or you're not pretty enough to do that. Yeah, yeah. How about that for women, right? So, all along the way, you combine that not having had any intuitive direction at all, no way of tuning into your intuition or understanding it. And you combine that with the life getting lifey and telling you that you can't and you're not and you won't, right? And you get to be an adult and you get a job doing something and you're afraid to make a change. If you have a job and you have benefits and you have, you're making a living, might be making a good living or not a great living, but it's scary to think about changing, to start over, to do something different. And, it's a real pie in the sky kind of attitude to say, oh, well, you should follow your bliss and do what you love and, do the work you love and money will follow. And all that stuff is very, what's the word? It's just platitudes. It's just platitudinal. So, um, and I guard against saying things like that because what I talk about may actually be similar, except it's grounded in reality, intuition, and logic. We're all born with intuition and intellect, and we're at our best when we use them both. Don't ever think uh, that if you're being intuitive, that you can't also be logical, and vice versa. They should kind of check each other out. They should kind of checks and balances there. Ooh, I said I wasn't going to talk about politics. So when it comes time to make a change, let's talk about that based on your intuition. It's a good time to look at other possibilities and a good time to make changes. That's what the card said. So, um, how do you know? You feel the tug of fate or you get kicked out. So when that nagging tug of fate becomes too loud to ignore it, then you know that you are on the right path with that. If you get kicked out of a situation, what I've always taught with this is look for what is the message, because everything that's going on and going in and going on around you, it's all got messages for you if you just pay attention. You don't even have to be particularly intuitive to say, or you don't have to have your intuition very well developed to say, oh, okay, this thing happened. What's the message with that? And I always tell people to pay attention to what gets your attention. Pay attention to what gets your attention. So again, feeling the tug of fate, or somebody comes into you up to you at work and is just downright rude and ugly like they always are. And you just go, I'm so sick of this bullshit. That's the moment. What's the message? What's the message? Okay. So that's one way to start tuning into the next step and tuning into your intuition and paying attention to the messages that are coming at you. The same thing with synchronicity. If you know what synchronicity is, it's when something that is very similar happens 2 or 3 or 4 more times in quick succession. So that was something that was coined by Carl Jung, who was a philosopher and psychologist. And Carl Jung, by the way, also said one of my favorite quotes, which was, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate." Till you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. And that's what we're talking about right now with the intuition thing. It will rule your life and you will call it fate because you're not getting the messages. Okay. All right. So once you have figured out that, oh, something's going on and you're asking, okay, what's the message here? The way to go beyond that, there are several things I can recommend. One is angel cards or oracle cards. If you get a deck like that deck from Doreen Virtue that I showed you, get a deck of cards, go online, go to the bookstore, look at the cards that are available, see which one just jumps out at you. This really happened. I actually was standing there in front of the cards one time. This is a long time ago, and a deck literally fell off the shelf. And I don't live like where there are earthquakes or anything. That was weird. But that's what we call like the book fairy or the card fairy. Um, so look at the cards that are available and don't dig in too deep to any of them. Just look for one that resonates, one that jumps out at you, one that speaks to you, one that has the colors you love. You'll know it when you see it. And that is using your intuition. It really is. It's just saying, okay, here are some choices. Which one feels right? 100 years ago, when I was a teenager, before the earth was cool, a friend of mine was doing tarot readings and he spread out the deck and he said, just kind of run your hand over it and pick out X number of cards. I don't remember how many it was. And so I ran my fingers just over I didn't even touch it, just kind of over the deck. And one of them, I swear to God, poked me. I mean, it felt like a pinprick, you know? That's the kind of thing that can happen to all of us. And it does happen if you will pay attention. So that's another thing. Besides asking what's the message, pay attention. When it comes to synchronicity, what's the message? We're talking about frogs right now. I'm going to tell you something about frogs, okay? And then you go outside later and you see a frog and you go, oh, that's funny because MoJo just mentioned frogs. And then you get into the car and you turn on the radio and there's some song or a commercial about frogs. You go, okay, what's with the frogs? Because logically we notice those things. Our brains are made to notice those things, to notice repetitious signs and signals. Biologically, it goes back to when we were cave people and we needed to know that that bush is the one next to our cave, right? So that we don't walk in on Og next door. So we recognize these patterns and we remember them, and it makes it easy for us to remember to brush how to brush your teeth and stuff like that. Okay, too much brain science for right now. So when you see the synchronicity, when you have the synchronicity and you say, what's the message, then pay attention and see what's the first thought that comes to you. Because one of the biggest mistakes we make when we're trying to be intuitive, trying to pay attention to our higher self, is dismissing it as imagination, because that's what we've been taught all our lives. In fact, my mom said that to me, and it was not a bad thing. But when I told her I felt like I was being watched and that there were unseen people around me, she said, "Oh, that's so wonderful. You have such a wonderful imagination. That's wonderful. You're wonderful." Right. So she reassured me. She didn't want me to be afraid. And she didn't know anything about anything, like what I do now. She didn't know. And so that was to her credit that she didn't just go, you're the devil, I mean, right? But it made me grow up thinking that all creative people had similar experiences to mine. I had no idea about these things that happened to me and in my mind and so forth, that really indicated that I was quite psychically gifted. So that is the first thing that we get is, oh, you're imagining. I mean, how many times has this happened to you? I know it's happened. If you think about it, you've had an experience where it's like this thought comes to mind. Maybe you hear a song on the radio, or somebody drives by in a certain car and you think, oh, da da da, like, oh, I better turn left at the next corner. And if you go, oh, that's ridiculous, that's stupid, it's just my imagination, I don't know why I'm thinking that. And then it turns out you really should have turned at that next corner. So we all have that happen, and that's real stuff. So the mistake is to dismiss it as imagination. Let's see here. What else can I tell you about tuning into your intuition? Well, meditation is one of the best ways to do so many things. But if you learn to meditate, and that's also something that I teach, but you can go on YouTube and you can be taught to meditate. And yes, you can do it. You really can. I have ADHD and I've been able to meditate for many years. It just takes a little know-how and some practice. It's not necessarily easy. Don't think that oh, you just close your eyes and concentrate on your breath. That's bullshit. Don't let anybody tell you that. And if they do, say that's mean because nobody can do that. Um, okay, some people can. Maybe they're just super zen naturally. But for me, I had to find a way that worked, and that was to have something to focus on. So in my mind, I would focus on a red ball, or I would focus on a hat, something really simple, and keep bringing my imagination and my thoughts back to that hat. And after a while, everything sort of gets quiet. And then you can think, and then you can tap in, and then you're connected. Okay. So that's another really, really good way to start developing your intuition. I mentioned about oracle cards and I did not finish them, and I'm going to wrap this up in just a second. So with the oracle cards, like I said, get the ones that call to you, resonate with you, have the right colors, get your attention, right? Get those cards and then just play with them. Just get that. And I say oracle cards or angel cards because tarot cards are a whole different thing. Um, Now, if you are naturally very intuitive and psychic and you don't know it, and you pull out tarot cards and they speak to you, wonderful. But if you're just getting started and you don't feel like you're super woo, then just get some regular cards and then just play with them. Go through and look at them, read the little book that comes with them, look at them and go, okay, I like that. Well, that's an idea. Get some quotes that you like from them. And then, shuffle them, deal out 3 cards, see how that works for you. They all come with little booklets that tell you how to use them and different ways of laying them out and stuff like that. Personally, everything I do is intuitively derived. So I like if I'm doing a psychic reading for somebody, I will lay out 3 oracle cards at the end to confirm what we've talked about, make sure we didn't miss anything important. But the cards are more for the client than they are for me, because I know what I've been saying is accurate. But for them to get the cards, then it's like, oh yeah, that's what we talked about. Oh, well, that makes sense, kind of gives them something to hang on to hang their hat on. So if you're going to play with oracle cards, again, that's a great way to start communicating with spirit, start figuring out how your guides talk to you, listening to your intuition. All right. Okay, so that's the end of today's lecture. I hate using the word lecture. All right, so any questions or discussion, or you want to share your intuitive experiences? Like Angela, I don't even know you at all. I'd love to hear something about your experience.
So, yeah, I used to have a YouTube channel reading tarot and oracle,
No kidding. Oh, wonderful.
but I've kind of done a bit of a pivot. It's still there in the background, and my mom and I actually created an oracle deck. Reese, I sent it to Reese as a gift this summer.
How exciting.
So I channel, lots of different things, but ancestors have always been my entire life, part of my gifts, part of my life in all different ways.
Okay.
So when it comes to pivoting, yeah, there's a lot that goes on, but anything from a car accident has pivoted me to just,
Mhm.
the straw that breaks the camel's back, and I'm just in tears going, yeah, I can't do this with this person anymore, and
Right.
off we go.
Kind of like those are like all the examples that I actually listed. They've all happened to you, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I've definitely been kicked out a lot of times, but also sometimes it's just like, this isn't it. This isn't working. Something's going on. And then you probably have found this as well, that if you open up and pay attention, it'll come to you in one way or another. Somebody will cross your path, that you'll meet somebody who inspires you or who invites you to do something, or, you'll have your own idea, or an epiphany, or you'll read something and go, this is it. That's my next thing. Yes, yes, yes. And that just keeps going along the way it goes. So tell me more about this, your channeling process.
It kind of comes in different ways. I like to write, so I actually did a series, weekly messages of unconditional love. So I channel love letters, and I did it for the last 4 years, but I pivoted at the end of the summer. And it's not that I'm not writing love letters, but I'm not publishing them in either video format or a non-newsletter newsletter. But
Yeah.
these are these different ways. Angel numbers are not new to me. I've been in a community before where I was trying to get somewhere I had never been. I followed angel numbers on license plates and got there.
Wow, that's very cool.
So
That is very cool. Now that is not even a like a known modality. You know, it's just brilliant. And it's interesting that you say that to me. It's interesting that I've always looked at license plates, always looked at license plates, and kind of look to see, I don't know, kind of what shows up, what comes up for me. I have a 2-digit number that's kind of like my favorite number, and I've never known what it means. Maybe you could tell me. I've never actually come across what it actually means, but there are times when I see it a lot on license plates and other places, and then sometimes when I don't notice it as much. And again, I know that part of that's my brain going, here's the same thing we've seen before. We're going to notice it again and again and again. But it's also a little more mystical than that. So what do you think?
So, okay, what's the number? We'll see if
Mm.
let's see if it happens to be one that
68.
68. I can get my angel number book.
Okay, cool.
Let me grab my book. It's
Would you? Oh, that's
Yeah.
exciting. Fun. Yeah, thank you. So cool. And what is on her sweater? Was that a maple leaf?
It's actually a vintage roots sweater.
Wow,
Yeah.
cool. How fun.
Yeah. Ange
Oh,
is
I
the
see.
friend that I call my wife.
Oh, okay. Okay. Really close friends. That's wonderful. Okay.
so 68. And this is this is a Doreen Virtue book. It's out of print and it's in pieces, but I love it because I've used it so much. And so does Reese. Remember that spirit is the source of your income. Don't worry doesn't assist you with your finances, but prayer always helps every part of your life. I think
Okay.
I think it feels like to me when you see it, they're just reminding you that they are a part of helping you in every part of your life. Because that's what jumps off the
Well,
page.
you know what? Here's what's interesting is that I've always thought that 68 had something to do with money and income.
Mhm.
So that is so helpful. You just really opened something up for me. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I love that. Thanks. I've got big chills. Thank you so much. I had no idea when I met you this morning that you were going to be this amazing person with all this woo stuff going on. So that's very cool. So where can we find you, Angela, if you are working and want to promote yourself?
So actually I am working on another project. So I've actually shut my website and things like that down.
Okay.
I do have a book on Amazon though called
Okay.
Showing
What's it
Up,
called?
Showing Up My Expression of Love.
Okay.
And so it is actually a book about rise. So my gift has always been that Angela shows up in people's lives in situations where they don't expect, and I don't even expect at times. And it's the rise. So there's a lot of those pivoting moments from car accidents to 4 near-death experiences, all of these types of things. And that's
Very
pretty
cool.
much
I
been my
can't wait
journey.
to see it. Now, I know Reese sometimes writes under a pen name. Is this under Angela
It's under
Marusis?
Angela Marusis.
Excellent.
I don't
Okay.
hide.
Just double checking. Well, there's something to be said for writing fiction under a nom de plume. Yeah, I may have to do that myself. We'll see. Although, I kind of have this alter ego. I've got Susan, I've got MoJo. So it's like I could write my business books under MoJo and my fiction under Susan. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm a work in progress. So, Angela, do you want to share what this new project is or not?
So it's an emotional needs assessment startup company.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we're kind of going into places where clinical assessments are, but of course the missing piece is understanding people's inner emotional needs that are unattended. So we have the owner has developed several assessments, and we're doing a pilot right now and getting ready to launch the professional version, hopefully
That is
in
exciting.
spring of next year.
Oh, that's really exciting. Yeah. What was it I was hearing just the other day about It may have been on the news or something, but somebody was talking about sort of the needs that we all have these days for therapy or something like that. And gosh, I wish I could remember more specifically. But what I was thinking was the common thread, and this has been said publicly as well. The common thread is really trauma.
Hmm.
You know, we all have trauma. And I've heard it mentioned derisively, like, oh yeah, boohoo, I have trauma. You know, we had trauma when we were kids. We just suck it up, you know. And I'm like, okay, that's like so masculine energy, just, you know. But again, this is how the patriarchy hurts men too, which is, yeah, they have to suck it up and then they suffer and those around them suffer. But I think that, you know, with my own therapist, I was, you're gonna laugh, Reese, because when I first met her, I was very, very ill with, I was in a bad depression, and um, and I told her that I'd had a really happy childhood, which is true, I did. And she told me a long time later, she said, "Yeah, when somebody comes in and says that, I always know that there's a lot more to it than that." But things like, so I mentioned I have ADHD. My mom was constantly telling me, honey, lower your voice. We're right here. Use your inside voice. Honey, be still. Be still. Okay, slow down. Slow down. I can't understand you. And that was a way of saying, you're not okay the way you are.
Hmm.
And my therapist said that that is a form of trauma, to be told that you're repeatedly that you're not okay the way you are, however that may be. Now, but I do believe that, and I'm sure y'all would agree with me that the main emotional and mental health problem that we all have is trauma at the root.
Yeah,
Do you think that's true?
everything. At everything,
Yes.
literally every symptom, every diagnosis, all started from a shape or form of trauma. And
I yeah, I believe
like
that.
everything actually heals through adequate trauma recovery wherever you start. Like
That's
it's
right. That's your
the
specialty,
root
isn't it?
of something that hurt you to a point that it actually shaped your psychological and physiological way of being.
Yes. Yes, exactly. I just found out that some people will they'll get triggered by something unrelated to the trauma and will overreact. And that's why they overreact. It can be very angry or very upset or very withdrawn. A huge overreaction that you're like, this has nothing. Why are you being like that to this? Is nothing, you know. It's a dish rag out of place, you know, or whatever. And I just found out that, oh, okay. So if you actually know what that person's trauma was, and it can be the kind of trauma, not like being told that you're not okay like you are, but the kind of trauma that you actually believed your life was in danger, that will bring those kind, that's what PTSD is.
Well,
Of course, I'm preaching to the
exactly
choir here.
like the hypervigilance with PTSD, like the grown ass adult that is crying over a broken egg on the floor
Yeah.
or spilt milk because that resulted in something volatile in the past.
Yes. Yes. Or not, it doesn't even have to be that. It can be uh some, yes, I mean, you're right, but another example is being asked to give information, you know, like like if I were to say, okay, Reese, but use a different example from the egg. What else have you got? And then and you gave me another example. I'd be like, no, that's not it. What else? What other example can you give? And just to be questioned like that can be related to a
Mhm.
trauma of being questioned or being, you know, having that sort of thing reinforced with physical pain and that sort of thing. Yeah, yeah, big deal.
Exactly. Like never being believed at face value is one of those
Yes,
things
yes,
that
yes.
will shape you and make you incredibly anxious and hypervigilant because you feel like nobody's believing you, no matter what you do or say or provide proof.
Yeah, that's a good example as well. The not ever being believed, Cassandra syndrome. Um, so yeah, you know, I know Reese knows and some other viewers know, Angela, you don't know. Let's stop talking about trauma. Angela, you brought up your new project, the assessments, the emotional needs assessments company that you're working with. So this would be different from, say, Myers-Briggs. This is more along psychological assessments. Is that right?
Yeah, we're basically, it's a series of questions, very thoughtfully and respectfully, like a dance, that come to ask people to actually just talk about themselves in a gentle way, step by step, bringing them in and out of places of what they like to what they'd like help with, or what they don't feel good about, they'd like to recycle a certain type of feeling. Never
like
asking for validation, never asking the whole story, just, you know what I mean, getting them to sort of step by step, let you in enough so that when they sit with whoever their care provider is, the care provider actually has a bit of emotional landscape to be able to know where to ask questions. And then if they don't answer a certain question, the questions aren't mandatory. That kind of tells them, okay, there's something here, but we're going to come at it in
from
a
a
different
different
way.
direction. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Wow, that just sounds really exciting. I think there's a lot of growth in the area of mental health, and it's about damn time, right? So that's fantastic. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I'm going to wrap up soon, but I wanted to know if y'all had any other intuitive experiences to share or any other questions for me.
I find right now there's a lot of dreams and they take different forms. I am someone who dreams, but maybe not consecutive nights. But I was telling Reese, there has been more consecutive in different ways. So yeah, I find now is an interesting time for that.
And do you think that the dreams are they having messages for you, or are they premonitive, and are they universal, or are they more existential, or what?
So the first one 2 nights ago was actually reminding me of my abilities with the Akashic records. Normally
Oh, okay.
I would pick up more interesting, but I didn't realize I was in it until after I'd been awake for a while. Then I was
Um,
like, oh, I was in a specific person's record. And I was like, okay,
ah,
this is different. Just to kind of sort of see a reflection of the chaos and a reflection of what is kind of like inside internally going on. So, I
interesting.
mean, they
Very
always have
cool.
messages.
Yeah, they always do, one way or another. I mean, you can look at them uh, from a psychology point of view, from a spiritual point of view. You can, or all of the above. You can really get a lot out of dreams. I've always dreamed as well, and I always remember my dreams. And usually they're pretty simple, and just sort of like, oh, I can see that this is about something in my life that's in my waking life. But then I do have the premonitions and the insightful dreams, and the things that if I'll kind of take them apart, they'll really have a good message for me. So that's cool. Yeah. What about you, Reese?
I mean, I've always been incredibly intuitive. Like, even down to waking up in the morning and knowing it's a day I'm not supposed to leave the house. And then that day, one of, the big five tragedies happens.
Wow.
And it was, no, I knew on the way
Did you leave the
there.
house anyway? Yeah, you did.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I have a little bit more privilege to be like, nope, canceling the day. I'm not
Yeah.
partaking in this. I'm not participating. Have fun.
Well, and the thing is, if you were wrong, so what?
Yeah,
Right? But if you're right and you do it anyway, and then you get fucked over, then
yeah. I
then
mean,
you're
even
like,
car
well,
accidents where I should have died.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah.
And
So,
now,
um,
like Ange, I have all the dreams. But recently they've just been showing me what I assume is coming.
oh, I hope it's good stuff.
Oh, it's all good stuff.
I love good stuff. All right. Speaking of good stuff, I'm gonna I'm going to draw a good news only card, but I want to talk to you first about very quickly something that I do and like to offer to you, whether you're seeing this in the replay or not. I offer a destiny diagnostic, which is, excuse me, with, oh my, maybe I'm not supposed to talk about it. It's with my compliments, of course, and it is a mini coaching session where we dig into where you are, where you want to be, and what your next step needs to be to do that. And I tell you what, now this doesn't usually happen in the Destiny Diagnostic, but if you follow that through after to go through my Destiny coaching process, I find that almost everybody thinks they want to be at PQR when they finish up. And it turns out they actually wanted to be at STUV. I mean, so we go through this evolutionary process and it's very cool. And then STUV turns out to be the, oh, wonderful, this is it. This is where I belong. This is where it's supposed to be. So, okay. So Destiny Diagnostic, you can find it on my website at mojomedium.com. If you can't find it, I'm also like Angela, I am the Mojo Medium on all the socials. And you can email me at mojomedium@gmail.com. Easy peasy. All right, now we're going to do a good news only card. I was inspired to create these good news only cards several years ago because a lot of people, upon finding out that I was a psychic, would say, oh no, what bad thing do I need to get ready for? What should I be worried about? And I was just like, okay, there was one too many. And then I got the divine direction to go ahead and make these cards. Each one just has a word or phrase, and each one is only interpretable, I don't think that's a word, as good news. It's only good news. Never going to be bad news about anything. It's never going to be, oh, good news, but the main thing is it gives you something to look forward to. It gives you something to look forward to in terms of looking for the good. We've already kind of talked a little bit about how our brains work, and they are always on the lookout for danger. And so negative thinking is very, very it's almost impossible not to have a lot of negative thoughts and very few positive ones. So you have to be conscious with those positive thoughts. And that's what this is about. If you look for the bad, what do you think you find? And if you look for the good, oh, guess what? So that's what these cards are about. I have shuffled. I've drawn the card. I've not looked at it. If you have your own deck of cards, we were talking about getting a deck of cards to, excuse me, help improve your intuition. These cards are great for that because you can just take it at face value and then see how it applies to your day, or see what comes to you when you see the card, and then go out and see where that shows up and how your intuition is involved in that. Okay, so today's card is Work You Love. By the way, no matter when you're seeing this, this is for you. And in the next few days to a week, this is what you can look forward to, Work You Love. Now, did I tell you all this? No, I said this to somebody this morning. I have a speaking gig that I am pretty sure is going to come through. And I've been talking to the person who hires the speakers, and so forth. And in the next few days to a week, I will know if I've got the gig. So to me, that's what that means. Let me see if I can figure out something else for you, that what you're looking for with a little more specificity. I'm really getting more that this is something more that you think of as tangential or as a hobby or an avocation. That is it's something that you're going to get to work on, that you really enjoy doing, but it's also about to become something more of a vocation. It's something that you're going to, if not start to work in that, at least incorporate into your current work. So that's exciting. So if you are self-employed, or you're employed, or even if you're retired, look forward to doing work you love. And how could that be anything but delicious? Wonderful, wonderful. All right, if we are complete, then I think we are complete. Join me again next week on Woo Wednesdays. Angela, thank you so much for coming. I really enjoyed meeting you. Look forward to more. And Reese, thank you for inviting her. And it was great to see you both. So I'll see you again soon.
Have a great
Bye-bye.
day.
You
Bye
too.
now.